Get some popcorn if you want, because we're going to do a little history lesson here. We're going to go deep into the Hillary Clinton world. And we got to give shout outs to Matt Taibbi and Aaron Maté for that, because they brought up something that really started to make me think. My little wheels started turning here, you know, and I was like, huh. Now I'm starting to remember other things that have happened that I feel Hillary Clinton was not held accountable for. So let's go ahead and get into this clip. Now, this was a part of Useful Idiots. It says Matt Taibbi's #1 Russiagate question. Let's go ahead and get into that.
What would you like to know more than anything else? You and I spent a ton of time on this. So,
why hasn't anybody interviewed Hillary Clinton yet? Who paid for the Steele dossier, central figure in all this. They've interviewed so many people, like dozens of witnesses, came before Mueller, came before Congress, all these parallel congressional investigations. No one's interviewed Hillary Clinton, who paid for the Steele dossier, who knew about the phony Alpha Bank story. Still, 6 years later, has not been interviewed by anybody. So that's one thing. And also, I have all the questions about CrowdStrike, and that's a Clinton campaign contractor, a firm that generated the foundational allegation of Russian hacking, later admitted privately they had no evidence for that, as we've talked about before. We still haven't seen their reports that they produced, gave to the FBI. That's an aspect of this that is very still unresolved to me, is what was the basis for claiming that Russia stole those emails, and what is the actual evidence? And what was the role of this Clinton campaign hired firm, CrowdStrike, in generating all of this?
Those are both great ones. The Hillary Clinton one's really interesting because there have been plenty of journalists who've had a shot at that, right? Like, not one of them is going to ask a question about any of this stuff.
Oh, so that's a good question. Why is that? Why is that not any of these journalists that have interviewed Hillary Clinton, why haven't they asked her about that? My guess is that they were probably told ahead of time what they could talk to her about and what they couldn't talk to her about. This happens sometimes. I've actually had this happen sometimes to me. I just don't tell you guys about it. There have been times when people told me what they didn't want to talk about, like right beforehand, or ahead of time, saying, look, I don't want to talk about this subject or that or whatever. So I would imagine that those journalists were probably told, look, you can't mention Russiagate to her. You can't talk to her about that. She's not going to answer questions about that. So don't do that, or you're going to lose the interview. And sometimes what will happen is that those journalists, they're so desperate to get that interview, right? Because that helps their career. If you're a mainstream journalist and you get an interview with Hillary Clinton, that it will actually help your career, as much as we dislike Hillary Clinton. But that will help them, right? So because they want the interview so badly, they choose to follow those rules and to not talk about it. I can imagine that's probably what has happened. And that's probably also why you'll never see Hillary Clinton on independent media. She was like, could you see Hillary Clinton on the Gray Zone? That would be funny. That would be really interesting.
It's kind of amazing. She was tweeting stories that were produced by by Steele. So she was the source, or her campaign was the source for that stuff. And then Hillary Clinton is responding to this during the campaign. Why hasn't one journalist posed that question to her? Like, hey, don't you think that was a little bit fraudulent to do that?
Yep. And same with Jake Sullivan, who's currently the National Security Advisor. He was also promoting the Alpha Bank falsehoods, and he's not been questioned about this by the media, and also by, as far as I know, John Durham. And why not? I mean, when Michael Flynn was the National Security Advisor, he was ousted because he was interviewed by the FBI in his first couple of weeks on the job.
So let's go back to the beginning, and then we're going to segue into the issue that I've noticed about Hillary Clinton. We're going to bring up some other examples.
What would you like to know more than anything else? You and I spent a ton of time on this. So,
why hasn't anybody interviewed Hillary Clinton yet?
Why hasn't anyone interviewed Hillary Clinton yet about this particular issue? So I saw this clip, and then I started asking other questions. Believe it or not, I went down the rabbit hole And I started to think about other things that Hillary Clinton did prior to this, where she was not held accountable, neither her nor Bill. Now, I don't know the age groups of everyone in the chat, but if you weren't around during this time, this is going to be an education session for you. So grab a notepad and take some notes. I have two examples that I want to point to that makes me question why Hillary Clinton has not been held accountable. It wasn't just Russiagate. The first example was a little scandal called Whitewater. Some of you may remember this, and some of you may be like, what is this about? So let's dive into that. Here's what you need to know about the Whitewater scandal. I'm going to break this down for you guys. I would like to make it bigger because the text is, there we go. The Whitewater scandal was a real estate controversy that came to public attention in the 1990s. It involved former Bill Clinton and his wife, Hillary. I should say former president. I'm sorry. I said former Bill Clinton like he's someone else now. Hillary, along with their associates. Whitewater was a land development venture that turned into a failed investment. Take some notes. We're about to go deep. After a series of lengthy investigations into the matter, famously led by independent counsel Kenneth Starr, the Clintons were never formally charged with a crime. Although several of their Whitewater associates fared quite differently. Now, here's something I want to point out, and we're going to go into that as well. They weren't charged with the crime, but some of their associates were. Make that make sense. Let's go in. Key takeaways. Actually, I want to skip that part and get into... No, I can't do this. Key takeaways. The Whitewater scandal was a real estate controversy involving Bill and Hillary Clinton that came to public attention in the 90s. The Clintons partnered with James and Susan McDougal to purchase 230 acres of land to build and sell vacation homes. Federal regulators investigated McDougal's other dealings in 1986, which led to questions about the Clintons' involvement in the Whitewater deal. So had it not been for those investigations into McDougal's dealings from 1986, they probably would have never even gotten to the Whitewater deal that the Clintons had with McDougal. So it was because of prior investigations. The Clintons were cleared of any wrongdoing, but several of their associates faced felony convictions. Now, I'm not talking about they just got a slap on the wrist. Felony convictions. You see that? Ken Starr investigation also included several other controversies, including the Clintons, and that also included the Lewinsky sex scandal. So let's go a little bit deeper here. Whitewater Development Corporation. When Bill Clinton was elected as governor of Arkansas in 1978, he and Hillary were looking for ways to boost their income. Surprise, surprise. James McDougal approached the Clintons to join a venture with him and his wife, Susan, and they agreed. So this was a joint venture. They were very much involved. It wasn't like they just decided, I'm just going to buy like a little bit of land. I don't know what James McDougal is doing. No, this was a joint venture. I have to point that out. The Clintons were already acquainted with the McDougals. Bill, having met James as an intern while he was interning for the office of Senator William Fulbright, both couples agreed to purchase 230 acres of land in the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas that would become the Whitewater Development Corporation. So there you go. Now listen to this. Under the deal, they would create individual lots to sell as vacation homes, attracting people who were interested in fishing and outdoor activities. But there were several problems that devastated their plans. Oh, here we go. The land wasn't very accessible, and there was a lasting impact from flooding in the area. So let's remember that. The land was not accessible, and there was lasting impact from flooding. I don't know about you, but I don't want to build any property on land that had flooding issues and had impact from flooding. Let's go on. There were also pressures of the economic cycle with interest rates on the rise. This meant potential investors and those interested in the second home could no longer afford to purchase a property. The real estate venture eventually failed, costing the Clintons a reported $46,000 in losses. Bill Clinton was elected governor in 1978, and James McDougal entered the banking industry in 1980. He was forming Madison Guaranty Savings and Loan 2 years later. But it wasn't the investment venture between the Clintons and McDougals that caused the controversy. In fact, it was a series of events that happened later that triggered the investigation. $203,000. The amount of money used to purchase the land at Whitewater, from which Clintons and McDougals used a $180,000 joint loan. Let's go. That's right, Lawrence Johnson, translation, swamp. Here we go. Jump to this one. Actually, no, I'm going to do it in order because I want people who haven't heard about this to understand. The Whitewater investigation. In 1986, federal regulators investigated another real estate investment. This was a construction project called Castle Grande, which was backed by James McDougal. Surprise, surprise. The investigation led to McDougal's resignation from Madison Guaranty and the eventual collapse of the bank. Again, the bank collapsed, okay? Now, its failure cost the government $73 million, and it was insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. I'm going to say this again. This bank, the collapse of this bank, cost the government $73 million. Hope you guys taking good notes. Questions surrounding the Clintons' involvement in the Whitewater deal grew during President Clinton's first term in office. And an investigation into the legality of the Whitewater transactions was launched. Now they're starting to look at their money. Allegations surfaced during the investigation, which was led by Special Prosecutor Robert Fisk, that Clinton pressured David Hale into making a loan for the Whitewater deal. Other allegations came out, implying Clinton's gubernatorial campaign debts were paid off by Madison through McDougal. Fisk issued a grand jury subpoena to President Clinton and his wife for documents related to Madison Guaranty. The Clintons initially reported the records as missing. Oh, surprise, surprise. All of a sudden, the records are gone. I don't have those. Oh, no, they just seem to be missing. Oh, shoots. Here we go. Eric says money here, money there. Yeah, what happened to it? Oh, dear. The documents were eventually found and cleared the Clintons of any wrongdoing. But what happened to those documents after they were missing? Were those documents edited? I don't know. The investigation continued. However, Kenneth Starr at the helm and the businessman David Hale as the star witness. Starr alleged that Bill Clinton, during his term as governor of Arkansas, pressured Hale to make an illegal $300,000 federally backed loan to Susan McDougal. The allegation lost much of its credibility after Hale was convicted of numerous felonies. Here we go. This is important to note. In 2001, Bill Clinton pardoned Susan McDougal. You see how this works? You scratch my back, I scratch yours. You prevented me and my wife from going down. I'm going to take care of you too. I'm going to pardon you. And here was the outcome. All three inquiries into the White House land deal yielded insufficient evidence to charge the Clintons with criminal conduct. However, Several of their associates were convicted as a result of the investigations, including James McDougal, who was convicted of fraud and conspiracy charges in 1997 related to loans made with Madison. Now, they convicted the associates, but somehow Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton managed to skate by with no charges. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a private investigator. But something just didn't sit right with me. Something is just a little suspicious. My spidey senses are going off. Something is off. Now, let's go on. And then here we go. The Starr investigation went beyond the Whitewater scandal to include several other controversies involving the Clintons, as well as the Lewinsky sex scandal, which led to his impeachment, and charges of perjury, obstruction of justice following the 1996 presidential election. Clinton was later acquitted by the Senate of both charges. It just seemed like to me that no matter what happens, even if Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton, let's focus on the Hill, if Hillary Clinton is involved in some way, shape, or form, she's never held accountable. And I believe that she is very much so protected. I believe the Clintons are very much so protected. And that's not the only thing. Now I want to show you another example. This is strictly just all Hillary. No Bill involved with this one. And I want you to listen to this. And I want you to explain to me how a woman who claims to be such a champion for women's rights would do what she did here. Let's get into this. I don't think many people know about this story. This goes back to when Hillary Clinton was a lawyer. Let's listen. Oh, we're going all in tonight.
It happened on this stretch of highway in Fayetteville, Arkansas, back in 1975. A 12-year-old girl brutally attacked by a 41-year-old man. They were reportedly in his pickup truck after midnight and parked in a ravine. That's where she says he beat and raped her. The sixth grader ended up in the emergency room. The young lawyer called on to defend the suspect in the case was none other than Hillary Rodham.
Now, I just want to remind you, the victim was a child. And Hillary Clinton was representing the victim, a child.
27, she had moved to Arkansas to be with her then boyfriend, Bill Clinton.
Hillary Rodham was running the legal clinic at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. The defendant, Thomas Alfred Taylor, who denied the charge, had requested a woman lawyer. So the judge appointed the future Mrs. Clinton. It would be her first criminal defense case.
Maylin Gibson was the prosecutor at the time.
The day after she was appointed, in fact, she called me and wanted to know if I could get her unappointed. She didn't want to represent the rapist.
Despite her objections, Clinton immersed herself in Taylor's defense, as she was legally obligated to do.
Just want to interject here. It's not uncommon for a lawyer to be assigned a case. That's not uncommon. That comes with the job. That's part of the territory, right? But that's not the bad part about this. That's not the worst part. Just wait for it. Wait for it. I want you to see what Hillary Clinton said.
In this affidavit seeking a psychiatric evaluation of the victim and signed Hillary Rodham, the rookie lawyer painted the victim as emotionally unstable, suggesting she'd brought false accusations like this before, that she fantasized about older men, and that experts say children like the victim tend to exaggerate or romanticize sexual experiences.
Now, I want to jump in here and I want to tell you again, this involved a child. Those are Hillary Clinton's words about a child. The person she's supposed to be representing. Now, they told you at the beginning of the story that the victim was hospitalized after the assault. And this is what Hillary Clinton says about a child. I have to stress that. This is not a woman. This is a child. Let's go on.
CNN contributor Josh Rogan interviewed the victim, now in her 50s, back in 2014, nearly 4 decades after the crime. The victim said the allegations in the affidavit are untrue, that she'd never romanticized sexual experiences or made any false accusations before.
There's never been any evidence presented by anyone to substantiate the allegations that Hillary Clinton made in that affidavit. To the victim, this was an attempt by Hillary Clinton to smear her in order to exonerate her attacker. The victim believes that Hillary Clinton lied in order to win.
Clinton also insisted.
Did you hear that? So much for champion for women's rights.
On getting her own expert opinion on the accused rapist's underwear after the crime lab had cut out the key part of the sample to test, then lost it.
In a bold move for a first-time defender, Clinton brought what was left of the accused rapist's underwear from Arkansas all the way here to Brooklyn, New York, more than 1,200 miles, just so a renowned forensic expert she'd hunted down could look it over. A move considered aggressive even by the prosecutor's standards. Maybe so, but it worked.
Clinton's expert cast doubt on what was left of the evidence, saying it hardly showed the defendant's blood or semen. The prosecution's case quickly started to unravel.
We began to scramble and consider possibilities of lesser offenses.
The story was mostly forgotten until in 2014, audio emerged of Clinton talking about the case with an Arkansas journalist back in the 1980s. Listen to her laugh describing the moment she delivered her forensic expert's findings to the prosecutor.
I handed it to Bailey Gibson. I said, well, this guy's ready to come from New York to prevent this miscarriage of justice.
Those recordings were played for the victim by Josh Rogan during his interview.
I'm sorry, but I don't understand what was so funny. What was so comical? This is scary.
Reaction was anger.
When I heard that tape, I was pretty upset. You lied on me, and you're supposed to be it for women? You call that for women? What you done to me? And I heard you on tape laughing.
There is a
That's right. So that was the voice of the victim as an adult. Do you see what the point I'm trying to make here? Now, I'm going to go on, but I want to make a point here about Hillary Clinton. She was always a fraud. Do you see what I mean? Champion for women's rights. Oh, yes, we need to support Black people. She was always a fraud. She was a career. She was an opportunist. I believe the only reason she even married Bill Clinton was because she knew that politically he was going somewhere. And that meant that possibly politically she could go somewhere. Let's go.
Another piece of audio that Clinton's critics have pointed to for some time. Clinton on the same tape laughing about her client passing a polygraph.
He took a lie detector test. I had to take a polygraph, which he passed, which forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs. But you know what was sad about it was that the prosecutors had evidence.
But whatever evidence the prosecutor had was trumped by Clinton's defense. In fact, even the prosecutor told us Clinton was doing what any good defense attorney would do.
She was just doing her job. She was going to present the best defense she could, and she was certainly going to require us to prove his guilt.
In a plea deal,
Of course, he's going to come in and say that. Hell, her people probably had already spoken to him before this interview happened. Let's just be real.
she got her client's charges reduced from rape to unlawful fondling of a child. For rape, Thomas Taylor could have gone to prison for life. Instead, he was sentenced to 1 year in the county jail.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? She got his charges reduced. I want to say again, the victim was a child. A child. He only served 1 year. Miss Champion of women's rights. And she had the nerve to have a slogan called "I'm with her." Please. I'm with her. All these women in the crowd with their signs. I'm with her. I'm with her. She not with you. That's terrible. This is absolutely a child. Children can't consent.
From rape to unlawful fondling of a child. For rape, Thomas Taylor could have gone to prison for life. Instead, he was sentenced to 1 year in the county jail. Even that was reduced 2 months for time served. Clinton was asked about the case weeks after her audio tapes emerged during this interview with an online parenting network in Britain.
When you're a lawyer, you often don't have the choice as to who you will represent, and by the very nature of criminal law, there will be those who you represent that you don't approve of, but at least in our system, you have an obligation, and once I was appointed, I fulfilled that obligation.
No matter her explanation, the victim sees it very differently.
She said that the sentence was a miscarriage of justice. In the victim's view, you cannot at once smear a rape victim and then turn around and claim to be a defender or a role model for women.
That's my point. That's my point. Do you see the hypocrisy? No, but this is your Hillary Clinton. Remember the same woman that said people were being sexist if they didn't vote for her? This is the same person. The same person. Now, some of you are asking me, when was this video published? This video was published 6 years ago. And yeah, this was on CNN, surprisingly. This was published 6 years ago, it says. Now, let me go back to the beginning to make sure I got, because I saw someone say about the representation, or actually, I could just go to this part here. Oh, you punks. They didn't put the thing there. It's the part where her face shows up right there.
Suspect in the case was none other than Hillary Rodham. Just 27, she had moved to Arkansas to be with her then boyfriend, Bill Clinton.
Hillary Rodham was running the legal clinic at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. The defendant, Thomas Alfred Taylor, who denied the charge, had requested a woman lawyer. So the judge appointed the future Mrs. Clinton.
She represented the defendant. Sorry, she represented the defendant. But do you get the point that I'm trying to make here? Guys, this was a case against a child. A child. Sabby, can you drop the link to that video? Yes. Eric, can you put the link in the chat to that? A child. That's a problem. That's a problem. Dana, and she cackled about it later. Yeah, she's on video, like audio, laughing. What's funny? It makes me wonder, who else is she covered up for? Who else is she protect? Why is this woman so protected? You have to ask yourself that question. It's a problem. And she had the nerve to shame people for not voting for her. But to the point that we were making earlier in reference to Matt and Aaron's clip here, when they asked, like, why haven't people interviewed Hillary Clinton about, in reference to Russiagate, why haven't they interviewed her about that? Why haven't they asked her these questions? That's a good question to ask. And that question kind of led me down that pathway. And I was like, oh yeah, remember Whitewater? Remember all this other stuff? Why was there no accountability? It's almost like it was just quickly just wiped away. So Hillary Clinton is who I thought she was. She's a fraud. And that's not someone that you should trust. And I can't believe they gave this woman a master class. But I guess they're giving it to anybody now, right? Because they gave one to George W. Bush. Really? Politics in this country is a clown show. It's a joke. Eric, any journalist that would buck the establishment never gets hired in the first place. Ah, that's true. See, Brass, the hypocrisy related to Hillary Clinton and Trump is wild. Yes, it's crazy out here, right? It's crazy. Sharon, I'd like to see Nick interview Hillary. I'd pay 100 for that. I'm going to tell Nick you said that. Ha, ha, ha. Yep, I'm going to tell Nick that. That's funny. Thank you so much for the super sticker, JM. Add kid, Sabby, great point. And why are the Clintons so protected? Exactly. Why them? And thank you for the super chat, Justin B. I can't believe this was on CNN. What a different news network it is now. I know, like, I was shocked that they reported that.